Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Biggening Corporation. This is our 24th episode, and today we're going to be talking about keeping score. I want to move us in a direction where it feels a little bit more like a functional game. We're at the point now where we've got the purchasing of inventory happening, we've got the receiving of inventory happening, and over the course of this week we'll slowly but surely have some of the sales activities happening as well, which means we've got things flowing in and out. So we are on track for this almost being a functional little mini game. Not a very interesting one yet, but we're getting there. So today we'll focus a little on what measures are we going to not only keep track of for a success conclusion and some of the season functionality around that, but I'm also thinking that the same mechanical engine would be very valuable for doing any sort of analytics or breakdowns for system administrators that they maybe want to present how the season went, review some of the data and that sort of thing. So we'll focus today on how are we going to keep track of that data and what makes sense to measure over time. I want to start off with a real quick thing about phone and tablet use. It's something that I find a large number of people don't know about, and we're going to make use of it quite a bit as we do our role center development. So we'll revisit this a couple times, so that's why I'm just going to talk this quick. In Chrome, or possibly in Edge, I haven't tried it out with Edge yet, there is an interesting option when you do inspect that allows you to toggle what is called a device toolbar. It lets you tell your browser, I want to act as a device. So for example, a bunch of predefined resolutions in here, Galaxies and iPhones and things like that. And you can also do custom ones and edit that. You can choose what sort of landscape we want to see. And as you can see, when we look at our role center in just that format, it obviously does not even remotely match the the way that the interface will look in the app. Well, the thing about the very clever people who have been developing this infrastructure, they made it real simple. If right after your service name in your URL, if you simply add the word phone, we're now looking at the phone version of it. So here is our what is currently pretty terrible UI in the Universal app on a landscape iPhone 8 style UI that we can click through and see what these are going to look like as components. The same is true for tablet. If we just type the word tablet, we can see what the tablet display will look like in our UI. And you can zoom in, of course, so that way you can show it off better. A lot of people don't seem to know about that, so we'll make use of that a few times here and there, because it varies how much people watch the different episodes and things like that. But it makes such a difference in doing demonstrations and training. Continue the browser here. You will get occasional weird messages because it's going to detect that you're in the phone and offer you to download the app. If we look at a better role center, if we look at a better role center that is more fleshed out, like our good old friend sales order processor, and we do the same sort of thing, again, if we change our layout to tablet, you can see that you get a very clear look at the way the tablet UI will look to the end user, and functionally how the different lists will render, how all the fact boxes will render, how things will render if you do it in some of the different modes like the the tiles and things like that. And this is the field groups that we talked about earlier, where you had a potential field group called brick that drives the layout of these little panels. So we'll be definitely swinging back to talking about how this is going to play out for our role-centered design for the mobile presentation when people are playing this on their mobile device. I mean, like, as you can see here, the role center, again, very different in the phone layout. We get all the nice little indicators across the bottom. We get menus where we can drop to documents. So it is an unbelievably useful little tool for demonstration and testing when you're doing development work. Cannot recommend that enough. And it is just as easy as adding /phone or /tablet right after your service name. And so, great. And like I said, if you've got the device toolbar open, it will detect that you're emulating those devices and offer the app instead. So we're going to shut that off and get back to work here. Okay, so as mentioned, we're going to dive in today on keeping score. So there's going to just be a little bit of brainstorming here. Just to start things out, we know obviously that for each season we are going to want to track players, suggestion, possibly also by team, and for each player in the season we want to track, obviously wealth is our primary driver. That is the one that we know we want to display and share. It's our main scoreboard that everything will be a reflection of that. This is a little capitalism game after all, so wealth is the name of the game. But I think it's really useful for system administrators and players to kind of get a better sense of things over time. For example, some of the games that are out there, such as like Civ, Factorio, all those sort of things, even at the very end of the game, you can review and analyze your performance to get a sense of how am I doing. And you can do it along the way too and get a better sense of things. And I think that would be really awesome sort of stats to present to people in an API. So that way people can query directly against it and build some stat trackers and analytical tools and Power BI things if they want. That could be fun. So the wealth is definitely one we know we are going to want. Other things, and I'm going to not do this all out in a line, but other things will be bot type counts. We'll also want, let's see, locations I think would be a useful one to know. I think it would be good to know customer counts. All these are really counts, so we're mostly dealing with counting things. And I'm thinking it would be interesting to store wealth change per period, which at the lowest level is game day. And then we can play with some of the matrix things, some of the weirder parts of the UI. We can also potentially play with business charts, which is going to be a weird part of the UI. We can also potentially do some profitability by locations. So there are some interesting options that if we do some of these pieces of info in a useful way, we can track a lot more about stuff. So that raises an interesting question. One of the configurations that I don't think I'm making any use of at the moment are dimensions. So we might need to think about that, because there's a lot of cool stuff we could do for analytics built into the product that we can drive by dimensions. So that might be fun. So let's I'm going to note that down as a thing to follow up on. Some of the dimensions that might make sense are per bot. Perhaps that might be too minute. It might be per bot type, and we may per item class, maybe. So there are some different ways we can handle this from the analytics side of things. What do we want to collect? And what's going to produce the most useful value? But I think this will give us pretty useful flow of things. And this means, particularly if we're tracking wealth change per day, we're probably looking at a few different tables in our structure. For example, we don't have anything to primary key off of for season. We do have now a player entry to primary key off of, so that's good. And then we want to have the balance of wealth on a given date. So let's call that balance. We'll kind of stick with a similar language to the GL account, so wealth net change versus net wealth balance. That sounds fine. And then the bot type counts. Part of me wants to make that a little subsidiary table, just for extensibility's sake, because then we can have the primary key be season, player, date, and then the enumerator bot type, so it's extensible. So we'll probably do that. Subtable, and then the location, customer, and vendor are just going to be snapshot counts for a given game date. So these, it's actually kind of more of a snapshot. Let's call it that, as a matter of fact. I think I like that language. Let's call it a snapshot. A snapshot of your balance. Okay. And we'll probably find a few more things before Alpha 1 that we'll want to add to our snapshots. So that's fine. So this gives us a nice little marching order on. We are going to need a season table. We're going to need a snapshot table that'll primary key off of season and players, and then we're going to need to think about on our heartbeat event, we're going to need a snapshot taker. So I guess I'd be tempted to call it a camera code unit, but I think that'll confuse because we're taking a snapshot of the business, not a physical picture. So I think we'll stay away from trying to be clever and confusing ourselves later. And we'll make a little subtable for the bot type counts. Okay, great. I think we can probably knock all this out today without too much fuss, so let's do that. And that'll give us the framework. Potentially, we'll see if we might even get to the idea of taking a look at, well, what does that look like when we hit up our API for that? What are you going to see there? So let's see if we can hurry, and we'll see where we get. So this is all going to be, let's tidy up our workspace here. It's a long list at this point, so okay. This is definitely going to be master company related things, and I think for clarity's sake I'll create just a little folder in here called snapshots. Do I want to call it that? Seasons. Because we'll do all the seasons and season-related information, which includes the snapshots, winners, final scores, that sort of thing. We'll do all that as part of this functionality. And now we can use our nice spiffy table wizard. Hooray! Love this. Sometime in the very near future, I am going to take the time to review in Waldo's extension pack all of the different extensions, and I think I'll do those possibly as another little live stream special event on like a weekend or something like that, and then do a condensed version for YouTube as an overview. Because honestly, there's a lot in there. I don't know how we're supposed to know it all. Okay, so for our season, we are going to go with our friendly, straightforward and simple system metadata. Always system metadata for this project because we don't need to comply with GDPR for this at this stage of the game. It'll be interesting if I do open this up to the public. I think then technically I do need to come back and reclassify all these so that way I'm compliant, but there's no business relationship, so I have some homework to do on that. Alright, so for season, I'm going to have, just because I like to have descriptive information potentially in these sort of things, I think it would also be a valuable thing to note in this season built on version. So when we do eventually start versioning our Biggening, we can keep track of what version it was built on, which is going to be a version number, which is effectively a string. And I'm going to create an integer, but I'll think about how to populate this of just how many people are participating in a given season. Alright. Nice, that's simple and easy, and this is another one of our data per company and false, because that is definitely an intercompany thing, and auto increment on this is true. We'll let, do I want that to be auto increment? Because if I accidentally create a new version, that could confuse things. Ooh, you know, I am going to say no on that. I'm going to keep that manual. Probably also editable, because a system manager can do whatever they want with season IDs. They can make it season 1000 to be the start one if they want. I also think that it's a good idea that we have some... I didn't think of this while we were doing it, but there should be an active flag on a season, and only one active season should be allowed, and that way the snapshot knows which season we should be tracking the data for. When we tick the active, then we will also want to deactivate any other season currently active. Well, you know, no. We're not going to make this one an editable. We're going to have a special code unit for starting a new season, I think. Especially closing it, because we want to potentially take an end point when the season stopped and started. Yeah, so we'll think about what other stuff we want to add to this, but eventually there's going to be some constraints around seasons, so that way there's some business logic around it. Real quick, we're going to create a BCS seasons. We'll go season list. Once upon a time, there's some discussion of naming conventions on whether you do plural seasons versus season list. So, it's fine. This, we'll call it list, sure. And for now, we will do all of those. That's peachy keen. And we don't need the system ID for the moment. I feel like... I'm pretty sure this is only relevant for API pages, but I could be wrong. It's definitely something that's coming, so. Alright, so we've got season, and now we're going to need a new table again, and this one is going to be a BCS snapshot. Wait, snapshots, sure. Season number, and this is going to be linking to our season number. We are going to want to link to our player entry here in the player table, which is also an integer, oddly enough. I'm a big fan of just if you're not going to embed meaningful information into the field, then why not just make it a numeric thing that picks up? So, because after all, we can join things, we can pull from other tables, especially with flow fields. Well, why would we want to do this? So for a given season, for a given player, for a given game date, we will have an entry. Beautiful. Okay, and now with this, the snapshot will contain, let's do the wealth balance at date, decimal, we're going to do the wealth net change, which will just, we'll create a little bit of code that will just look at the previous game date for that player, subtract the balance, and go ta-da! We want location count, because I think just a total count of the number of locations is fine. I don't think there's value to how many of the different types. I mean, from an analytical point of view, that might be interesting as a system operator to be like, okay, well, this guy is far, far and away beyond everyone. He's got the same number of locations. What's going on? But at that point, you can dig in and jump into the data itself and go look and do more analytics. So I don't think that matters. Okay. You know what might also be an interesting one? Power usage across the date. That might be an interesting total to see. Because all bots will consume power. So it'll give us an interesting idea of that. Okay, and then we're going to have bot types, but that'll be a subtable using these 3 plus a bot type enumerator as a PK. So that should work. Cool, cool. Away we go. Drop the system ID. No, it didn't auto-generate that. Cool. Works for me. And we're going to create a new table again, which in this case will be the BCS snapshot bots. And we cruise our way through the entire list of these again, so you know, we'll be able to copy and paste that, so let's be lazy with ourselves, and we're just going to do bot type as field 4. This is going to be enumerator of BCS bot type. That did not autocomplete the way I expected it to. There we go. That's fine. System metadata, and then on this one we just need count. And integer is fine on that. And we'll have to fix up the primary key, but now we can just be lazy and copy and paste these fields over there. Why retype? Sometimes, not always, but sometimes efficiency and lazy are the same thing. Not always. Okay, so there we go. Snapshot and bots. Cool. So now we've got the table. Let's... I'm just thinking if we, for simplicity's sake, for the system administrator, let's create a couple of quick pages against those. Snapshot list. Yep. BCS snapshot. And this is going to be a list again, and we're a list. Could be history. There's a bunch of reorg on this that we could make use of, so I'm gonna do that. Finish you. Okay. I notice it's I'm not sure what order it's using for putting things on the page here, because season number and player I would want to be towards the top here. Might be alphabetical. Yeah, mostly alphabetical, yeah. Okay. Let's get that in here. So season and game date up to the top here as well. This list is absolutely editable false for sure. And then on this, we're going to do a new page for the BCS snapshot bot list. List part. Is that acceptable length? Not sure. I wonder if I can suggest a feature here of like showing how many characters you've used, because we're constrained to 30 characters on the object name, so seeing like right in even just parentheses after the name here, like 29. Like, oh, okay, perfect, fits. Would be kind of handy. Okay, so in this we're going to do bot type, bot count, and we don't need any of the other fields. We're going to do editable false in this, because it's going to be our fact box. And now here on the snapshot list, down in our, I believe, bottom of layout, yep, we want in our fact box area, we want a part. Now we have to name it something, BCS bot list, and it's BCS snapshot bot this part. Perfect. And we need have a caption on that so we can translate it. Bots by type. Which, let me tell you, we had done the Poe edit on camera in a previous episode, and I translated an entire extension in probably about 10 minutes with how fast that tool ended up being. Granted, also knowledge of the language, but still, like, just the efficiency of being able to fix and adjust things. Whew, wowzers. Yeah, can never remember. I'm pretty sure I want link. So we want to, pardon for one moment, I, for whatever reason, am still not in the habit of this, so let's take a look. Subpage link, field, name equals field, blah, blah, blah. Cool. So this will be season equals field, season, comma, player equals field player. Yeah, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about the formatting on this. Let's see if I wanted to do multiple links. Yeah, it should be comma. Okay, I think it just, the autocomplete was being a little weird there. That's fine, it worked. Just took a moment to think about itself. It's still better IntelliSense than a lot of things I had to work with for a long time. So there we go. Okay, and we don't need to worry about update propagation because we're not changing any values. So there we go. We've got a list of snapshots, and it's by season, blah, blah. We don't have any jumping off to it at this point just yet, but that's okay. We mostly needed the table to exist, and I just wanted to be able to run the pages to see the data. So now what we need is we need something that on a new game date takes a new snapshot, because I'm going to consider beginning of the game day to be the point we take each snapshot. So we're going to make a new little code unit. Snapshot capture. Sure, why not? Sounds fine to me. And we can still we could potentially do, oh, you know what would be smart? In our object designer, in our workspace, we can just go to the code units, and we can see here there's a code unit, and we do events, and we see there is a BCS player on Heartbeat. If we so I went quick there. I opened my object designer extension, told it I only want to look in workspace objects, look at code units, and show only events, and I know that I want my code unit for the player heartbeat to listen to the on player heartbeat. So if I click this, check this out. I love this so much. Look at that. Paste, and blam. It just drops it right in. If there were any variables, it would drop in the variables too. Super, super efficient. Oh my gosh, let me tell you. It's even better than snippets. Alright, so anyways, cool. So now we've got a little thing that will run anytime a heartbeat happens. So we need to oftentimes I'll put a procedure in. I'll make it local for now. That is the actual function take snapshot and call it from the event. Again, that's mainly for potential if I need to later at any point do a testing code unit against this, I could drop this and then call the function directly in there. So it's not a huge benefit, it's just future proofing a little bit. And if I potentially need to do other things, I could do other things. So, there's no event there's no variables on the heartbeat. It's just tick, something happens. So what we are going to need to capture wealth is we are going to need the GL account. Now the nice thing is we're running this off the player heartbeat listener, so this will only happen in the context of the company that we're in. So we don't have to do any change to company craziness. And we want GL account. Thank you. Let's see. We're going to need location. Let's do all the built-in tables first here. Customer. The nice thing with these is that we really do just need counts from these tables, so that'll be simple and tiny for SQL impact on this, so that's always nice. We will need our bot instances, which I'm just gonna call it bots record BCS bot instance. Cool. And then we will need a little decimal holder for calculating yesterday's wealth against today's wealth, which we can get if we just do a GL account too. So let's just do a GL account too. That's fine. We'll do that. Okay. So we also need our tables to store this information. So we need snapshot record BCS snapshot, and we will also need snap bots record BCS snapshot bots. Cool. Excellent. And then we need to look up the player ID and the active season. So seasons record season and players record BCS players. Just kind of getting all of my ducks in a row on the variable front to begin with. And as I said, I like to group things base product versus my custom ones, just a little clarity there. Okay, so for each time this heartbeat goes off, we need to check snapshots, check to see if there is an active one. Ooh, hello. Hitting the start key, and that could dangerously open things on my stream. So let's see where we have on snapshot. I thought we had. Oh no, jeez. Talking and typing. It's on seasons. We want to see if we have an open season. If we don't find anything, then we can just skip out of this whole procedure. So we could begin end around the whole darn thing. That seems silly, and I don't like doing not find first. That's impractical. We can just ask SQL to tell us if it's empty. So let's do that. If seasons.is empty, then just bail out. That's fine. Super efficient. If there's nothing, great. Now, players, set range on this. We want the company name, and we want our current company name. And if that one is empty, then again, bail out. We don't need it. Oh, I almost did a dangerous, stupid thing. Woo-hoo. Data per company equals false on our snapshots and the bots associated with it. Whew, we do not want that. Okay. Thankfully, we haven't published it to the server, so no major implications to the data at this point. Alright, so if there's no open season and there's no player for this company, then we don't need to care. Cool. Now we're going to make the assumption I don't like making an assumption. If for any reason this heartbeat goes off and there already is a snapshot for that given player, season, and game date, I want to bail out again. So let's handle it that way. Again, just a nice easy exit right at the beginning rather than wrapping the whole giant thing in an if-then. So if we get a snapshot that is, now at this point we have which season number is active. No, we don't. We did is empty, then exit. So I guess we could do an if find, because we're gonna I'm gonna do a find last, oddly enough, on this. Just give me the last active season. It should never be more than one, but in case something glitches out, give me the last one. This still is a little more efficient because we can bail out and we can ask SQL just to give us the empty a little more efficiently. So I'm okay with this, but we do need to still, I've talked in the past about doing the set your criteria, then do your motion, move, sure, action, and then save / insert, whatever, however you want to think of the flow of this. Criteria is empty is not a movement. It does not put you on a record. So if this is false when we do seasons.isEmpty, I'm not going to be on a seasons record when I am done. So isEmpty kind of skips you out here at this stage. So in your thinking about design work, don't isEmpty is more efficient to check for, but it does not count as a move. That can get you in a world of unpleasantness, and was just about to get me in one too, because I was going to assume that the player company name was there. Okay, and here we're going to do an ugly little find first. There should never be more than one. I could theoretically do an if wrapper around this, that if there's more than one player with the same company name, we could blow up. But I'm just going to do this find first. You'll note too here that I'm assuming that at no point do I have anything set up so that two players can run the same company together. That is not intended as a design functionality, so it's not supported in the code at all. Okay, so if we get, and just again, nice easy mouse over, we can see our PK is the season number, player number, game date. So we do snapshot players dot company name, and we get our game date from a table that I didn't put in here. So let's get that company info record. We stored this on the company information table because why not? And we can add, I like to do simple checks as much as possible. If not, company info dot get. If there's no company info, then exit. And if company info dot game date, current game date, equals 0D, then again bail out. Putting as many simple tests at the beginning of your code complies with efficiency effectively, and the way they think of handling this is, I forget the exact way they used to teach us this, but it was always test near, like check your local variables first, check your local fields first, test far, and then do things. So I like to put as many tests and jump out of the code as towards the beginning of it as humanly possible. And this handles a lot of those, so cool. Company info, current game date. Yep. Okay, so if there already is a snapshot for this season, player, and company for this day, then we'll exit. And now we can safely assume that all is well, and we can start doing our writing of everything. So let's do that. Snapshot season equals season.number. I should name that Snapbots something else because it's messing me up here. Snapshot bots. There we go. This probably will make it so that the autocomplete is a little less crazy. Player number equals, ooh, hey, I have a mix match here. Player number integer players.company name. Yeah, bad times. Let's not do that. That will get us some runtime errors. You'll notice too that the compiler does not catch that. CodeCop might, but the actual compiler is not going to check that. It does not always have the best of type checking against things like get that take joker values, so you can code things pretty terribly wrong. Get some pretty weird errors later. Okay, snapshot, game date, company info. Now the heartbeat is happening at the when this player heartbeat goes off. I don't remember, are we in a place where the company info has been written? Yes, cool. Okay, so we have the company info modify happen before the heartbeat event, so we can rely on the company info game date as being the new date in question. Perfect. I thought so, but you know, when you're not 100% sure, why not check? Okay, so the nice thing here is a bunch of our values are going to be stupidly simple. So like, for example, location counts is literally just going to be location.count. And we don't even have to set filters on customer vendor location. We're not looking for that level of information. So thank you. So SQL is going to be really efficient about just going, here you go, no problem. I've got that data handy already. So nice to have some things be streamlined, like my case and autocomplete there. Okay, now for our GL accounts, let's go take a look at the chart of accounts. I still haven't revisited making sure these are configured exactly correctly, but we're going to do a nice simple on this that when I have the calculation set up correctly, that table 3000, GL account 3000 is going to be our person to use. If you haven't used flow fields, the net change and balance are driven by this filter totals by, and you can do it by date filter. I'm not sure I know some good data off the top of my head to throw a filter on here, given the crazy dates involved in the game settings. But let's see, where are we at? Company info. Yeah, 2026 at the moment. So yeah, if we said through 2010, 101, boy, we can see that the net change clears out because there's no data at that far back point in time in the game, but balance is current. So they nice and simple made the flow fields sensitive to these flow filter fields, so we can real easy do our calculations on what our current balance is versus yesterday's balance, and that makes this next part super simple. So GL account set error. We can actually do get because we're going to know what our GL accounts are. They are still code values, so even though I've used numeric values, they're strings. I could, in a game setup somewhere, indicate these instead, but I'm going to hardcode for now. That's okay. I might I'll flag this with a to-do of consider game setup to point wealth account. Sure. Okay. That's fine. So now, with both of those in place, we have the easy ability to do GL account. You know, we don't even, with balance and net change working the way that they do, we don't even need two variables. Ooh, cool. Forget this. So what we do is we do set range on date filter, which looks like a date, but if you haven't looked at the definition of the GL account table, it looks like a date, but it's got a special field class on it. Let's see if I can get there. Yeah. It is a field class of flow filter. That means that this isn't actually stored in the database. It's just used as something we can set filters on, and then calculations can take the value of that into effect. So that means that we can set range on date filter to be calc date of the current game date from our company info. Which I always do this backwards. I always type it backwards every time. Minus 1 day, but again, brackets around our date formula so that it's multi-language friendly. So our date filter is going to be 0D through yesterday from the current game date. 0D is the blank value of a date field, so this is the same as saying ... In my case, today being August 17th, would say ... through 0816. Cool. And now we can calc fields on our net change and our balance. We can use balance at date. Both would work for the way I have filtered this. The difference between net change and balance at date, which are both date driven, balance at date will only consider the upper end of this range. So if I wanted to see the amount of change over the past game's 30 days, I could set a lower range and calculate net change, but balance at date would take into account the upper range without taking into account the lower range. So it's a little bit of a confusing thing if you're not sure what you're trying to achieve sometimes. So no problem there. Okay, so now we have the ability to say that the wealth balance is equal to the GL account balance, and our snapshot wealth net change, the difference between yesterday and today, is the GL account dot balance minus the net change through yesterday. Easy peasy. There we go. And we haven't modified yet, so we'll just insert that. I'm going to throw true in there just so that way there's eventing possibilities off of snapshots in case we need to. Now, real quick, we're going to go through, and if bots dot is empty, then well, now we can. Let's do this right. Wasn't there a cool little repeat? Yeah, cool. There we go. I've been meaning to get better about my snippet use, and I knew that there was a more efficient way to do snippets. So the snippet that I'm using is our repeat, and that plops in that and puts you immediately on rec, and when you retype it, it replaces the rec in both situations. Ta-da! So, I love it. Slowly getting faster as we go. Cool. Okay, so if we find any bots, then we want to do snapshot bots.season, and you'll notice I'm not checking for duplicates here. If we get to here, there's probably no snapshot for the day already, so it's fine. And here we can copy this code because I'm trying to go quick before we're at the end of our time for our day. And now snapshot bots. Make sure we update the variable here. Yep. Dot bot type. Oh yeah. I'm actually doing this a little wrong. I don't want to iterate over every single bot instance. Huh. I'm not sure how to iterate over an enum. I should. Silly. For each this type. Oh man, what was the method to iterate through an enum? Because we only need to calculate the number of bots for each given type. I don't need to iterate through every single bot, and I am a dingbat for forgetting the method of enum iterate. And there are always little useful words. This is AX, so that's going to help me. Data type. Oh yeah, there's some pretty cool new functions that they've added this year around enums to make it possible to work with them and get the value names. That was still not what I need it to be though. Enum object. Okay. I'm not sure whose blog post this is. That's interesting. Yep. Cool. That's a nice case statement. That's how to deal with options. Alright. I honestly don't remember what because this, I think, is the old school 2015. Wow. I honestly don't remember the enum for each iterator. That's not so good. So, sometimes these snippets give you more to work with, but apparently enums are new enough that not so much here. What is this? Oh, interesting. How to format an enum into an integer. Yeah. There's some new functionality around that. For each bot type in BCS bot types. Nope. Ugh. Okay. Well, I feel a little bad because I should have tested and known this beforehand, and I didn't. But that's part of the learning process, I'm afraid. Interesting. There's lots of info about how to use them in case statements, but I wonder if we have to use the ordinal method to go through that. I didn't think so, because that's how we get the list of ordinals, which is an integer. And then that's how we get the different names. I suspect I'm going the long way around on this, so that's unfortunate. Ordinal value for no. What the world? Oh, up there. Okay, well, we're cruising along pretty quick, so I'm going to slap a to-do on this, that we need to snapshot the bot types by iteration through types. I feel daffy about that because I swear that I had code in our dispatcher to do stuff like that, but that is also going through all of the bot instances and just checking with a case type there. So, well, that's wacky. I mean, yeah. Alright, Well, I mean, we could try it real quick. I've got a few minutes left, and I don't think anything else is going to fit into the time, I'm afraid. So let's do a little list of bot types, which is a list. I find it interesting that they do this list of ordinals. Like, can we do that in code? I didn't think we could. Like, declare the... No. This is terrible example code. I need to give some feedback on that one, because this is perfectly logical and sensible code. This you can't do. You can't declare and assign in AL. So not sure what they were going for there. Both of these point. Okay, yeah, both of these point to the same exact thing. Well, that's bananas. Okay, so that's doing a list of ordinals, which is the list of integers, which, as we saw up here... Okay, interesting. The list of integers is pointing us to the list example in generic form. So, yeah, bot types is going to be our... let's call it en to indicate, and it's a list of integer... we needed brackets. I'm like, why did it just auto-complete that? Alright, we're learning together. How fantastic. So, the enum bot types equals ECS... that's right, excuse me, enum dot... What? I was sure we could get to the enumerator types, but via that enum handler. Huh. It's fascinating to me that that's just auto-completing. Okay, well, let's do this. We'll do it off of the snapshot bots.bottype.ordinals. There we go. And now we've got a list of integers, and we can get back from there. So for each in this type of enum bot types, what in the world are we doing here? If we look at our list data type, they don't give us any spiffy examples to do a for each with the list data type. I'm sure. However, that is explained. Because we have 4, but there we go. So for each element and list. Okay, I just was overcomplicating the code. And we want in. And now we've got an end too many. We also need do, just like any other loop, and we also need to, yep, because you can't inline declare variables. There we go. Okay, so for each integer in the bot types, okay, I think at this point it would have been faster, although not extensible, for me to have just iterated through all of the bot instances every time. Oh, too funny. Oh, the things we do for efficiency. Okay, so for each type, we will take our bot's set range on the bot type, and we will do bots.bottype. Well, that gets us as integer. How do we get back on the enum object? Okay, we have to declare an enum variable of that given type, and then we can use the okay. I don't even know what to name these variables. Half of these are nonsense. Bot types equals an enum of BCS bot type, and then we set the range down here on BCS bot types dot what from integer. I'm only getting as integer. I'm thinking these enum instructions are a little bit off. On the enum data type, there should be a from, and they're distinguishing between what's available on the data type itself versus instances of the data type. But I don't think I can just directly access the data type. And again, this is nonsense banana code. That doesn't even remotely work in AL. Ugh. Yeah, that's... What? Okay, IntelliSense doesn't know how to deal with it, but check that out. If we carefully typed the data type that is our enumerator, then we have the generic procedures for that data type. Oh, well, that's bananas. I am going to need to do a blog post about how all this nonsense works. I suspect there's probably one or two out there already, so it won't be earth-shattering. I just didn't quickly find them in my look. Okay, so now for each type, we're setting the bots in the range, and now we can do a... I had already copied the code and deleted it, just tripping myself up. Nice. So within this loop, we want to call snapshot bots to insert a record for that bot type. Snapshot bots.bot type equals, and here we have this BCS bot type. Now, if you're used to working with option types, this is crazy. But you also couldn't really iterate through options any differently. And the advantage that this has is that anyone could come along and add 20 more bot types to the BCS bot type enum, because I marked as extensible, and this code will adapt to that. So it's a little bit of a cost, but I'm okay with getting used to the handling of this. It's just going to be taking some getting used to. And now here we can just do bots count. And again, we'll insert true just because there might be eventing on that. Okay, well that was funky. Because I was stumbling a little bit, just gonna recap what actually worked in the end. We needed, do we actually need the variable? We do not, I don't think. Hang on a sec here. Tidying up. Nope, didn't need that. Cool. Excellent. Okay, so we needed a list of integers, and that's going to be the enum ordinals from our enumerator, which is way the heck back up here. So in our case, it's going to be 0 through 8. It could be 0 through 100. It could be 10, 20, 30, whatever. Doesn't matter. We're going to get an extendable list of integers back, however many there are. We needed a little variable that was an integer to hold the current one. This could be I, for example. And actually, for clarity, I think I'll do that. That makes more sense. It's just like a for loop, so we'll use I. Okay. And I'm going to clarify my code. Current bot types. Yeah, there we go. That's a better variable name. Now I know what I'm trying to do. So the list of bot types is this nice list of integers, and then for each integer in our list of integers, we do the following. And within that space, we take that integer value and convert it back from an integer to an enum value and set that as a filter, and also use that value, that enum value, in the bot type field, which is an enum. And that gives us a nice clean way in the code to iterate through an extensible enum and insert data related to that. So that's cool. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah. All right. Well, neat. I guess let's just take an extra moment or so to tick up the game date and see if we can see our test player data in there, because that's always a good idea. We haven't actually published any code this run through, so I think I probably broke my job queue last time around. Yep, cool. Which honestly is good. It meant that it wasn't running over the long weekend there, so that's fine. We'll restart that and we'll tick up our game date. Cool. Now we don't have any brilliant way of looking at snapshots, but here we are. Okay, so it may take a moment or two, but as you can see, we are seeing our season number. Oh, I didn't create a season, so it won't record anything. Whoa, we need an active season. Otherwise it will not. And I marked that field as non-editable because I was going to create a code unit to note this down. So early live streaming, I need to republish that with that field editable, because otherwise we will record nothing. Yep. Alright. Tabs scrunch across the top all the time. You can set up your Visual Studio Code to have all of your open tabs in a little Explorer window on the left-hand side here. I personally find that better with some of the long file names that we get. But if it's something that you're going to go back to all the time, like an app.json or translate file, do note that you can right-click on it and pin, and that'll stick it like that. So that's kind of cool. I dig that. And it'll also put it at the top of your open editor list. So random thing, just while we're talking about being lost in tabs here. Editable, let's get rid of you. We don't need you to be false. You're messing me up. Cool. Force refresh, make sure we're all up to date. Yep, system's still building our role center. There it goes. Yep. Alright, season list, edit, and this is now our active season. There we go. So now we have an active season, and we can bump up our game date again. And within a moment or so, we should get our view. So theoretically, we should shortly see at least test player 5 registered in here under season 1, player, I think 1, and then the game date of like June, whatever year we're in, with the counts of the customer, vendor, power usage. I didn't do any code for power usage. Let's note this in here. Power usage. Totally spaced on that. Okay, so let's go see what's what. Alright, that's theoretically gonna run, or theoretically has run. We don't have any error handling around the snapshot taker. So that's something we're going to have to be a little careful of. So if the snapshot for any reason runs into a problem, we won't know. It's just going to break the job queue. So we do potentially need to tidy that up and put some careful case wrappers around it. I am not getting a tick or something. Let's double check my flow. I created the code unit. I called the code unit. Let's go make sure our test player 5 is connected to anything, because that's one of the many cases where we'll bail out. And there is no company connected to test player 5. Cool. So at least that makes sense. That is still on the 10th, which means possibly something is not ticking. So let's jump over real quick to the master company, because that's where our heartbeat job is. And make sure that our heart is ticking. Cool. It is. Alright. So that is scheduled to tick nowish, but it is every 15 minutes that ticks, so that's fine. Okay, so jumping back over to our test player company, I would just love to see some data actually show up here. That would be pretty cool. Entries, make sure there's no errors. Good, we're okay there. It should be ticking along any old moment. In process, that's what I want to see. Now let's see if we get the magical no error. Do we get a snapshot though? Hey, there we go. Alright, much better. So, nice and simple now. We get a season number 1, player 2, and for this game date, they have 1 customer, they have 5 locations. We don't do power usage yet. They had 3 vendors, and we're currently not calculating wealth correctly. But we did get that we had 4 bots, and we had 1 inventory basic bot. And we have 3 research. Beautiful. I think for now, it's probably fine to me that we create entries even for 0 count bots, because that'll help when we're building any sort of data cubes against this. We can consistently get a record, like if we wanted to say only show me sales bots across time, getting a 0 rather than a no record found is a little easier to deal with in external tools. So there we go. We got ourselves a snapshot, functional and doing its thing. This is going to be the basis of how do we build our leaderboard. So this can be a really useful sort of data cube to build for companies. If you wanted, for example, to track sales by day, you could use a similar sort of workflow that if when a user connects up for the first time that day, much like we have our little code unit in here where the player work date changes, if the you could go ahead and do an event off of this login situation here. When the player logs in after the company opens, you could check to see if you have a sales order snapshot for that day. And that way you could track over time in the number of orders entered per day, and still potentially catch things even if users post them, they delete them. So there's some real value to accumulating this sort of info over time. You just need to think about what is a measurable set of data that will provide the value that's worth the transactional storage cost. And you need to think about, do you want to preserve this forever? Is it valuable? So you might need some cleanup logic. But yeah, this is a real easy example of how to add some functional design to your system that keeps track of how are you doing. Great. So that gives us the foundation, at least, for the snapshot that we were aiming for. And we'll start capturing data about how things are going. I'm looking super forward to doing some odds and ends with this. So we may continue tomorrow with snapshot building. For example, some of this info is useful to the player. And they potentially want to see this, but we probably don't want them to be able to see all these details for everybody. So we need to think about a player version of this list that shows whether or not allows them to access data in a sensible way. And then we need to do a similar sort of design concept. I'm thinking tomorrow is going to be a little bit of an API day. We're going to make ourselves a custom API set off of this, one for system administrators and one for players. And that way you can do permission-based controls over the page numbers. Because when you expose pages of type API, all fields are included. So the tricks that we can use here, where we can pre-filter it, may not be tricks that we can make use of in an API situation. But yeah, so tomorrow we'll spend a little time building an API and then take a look at what sort of data we can pull out into Postman, and I might even tinker a little bit with Power BI against it just to see the data. And I did promise there would potentially be a time lapse sometime this week to produce some sales bots. That did not happen over the weekend. A heat wave kept me way the heck away from a computer, so that is still ongoing, but I'm sweating through today and tomorrow. So excellent. Well, thank you all for watching today, and I will see you all tomorrow, but not on Wednesday. So company meeting, and I am unfortunately going to be on a boat at the time I would normally stream. So all right, well, thank you all, and see you tomorrow.